All right, we're talking our friend Soren Bowie, Family Guy, Jeopardy. Welcome to The View with us, where we talk about the news of the day and how we feel in our hearts.
And you know he's going to keep this. Like, he's not going to redo this. He's just going to let this happen.
AKA Frame Rate, the show where we rate frames.
Hey.
Hey, who said A? I'm blind.
I'm one of your co-hosts, Abe Epperson.
Mm-hmm. And our third co-host this week.
Hi, this is me. I'm Daniel O'Brien. Abe, I just want to clear the air. You were addressing me seconds ago, and I am incapable of speaking until I'm introduced on a podcast. It's a very...
Oh, really?
It's really, really weird.
I have an awkward time knowing I free ball it as is apparent every time. And every time I'm like, we should have a codified system like Jack has. He always says, it's been a goddamn pleasure to have you. And you're like, oh, it's wrapping up. Like, we don't have that. We always stare at each other and go, are you Abe, are you going to talk first? I forget what we're recording. I don't know what the show does.
Yeah. You do what you do well, though, that I, as a podcast veteran, I would implore everyone to try to do the same thing, is you start the podcast with, this is the show Frame Rates, where we rate frames. It's very quick, but now people know that this is a podcast where you talk about movies critically with guests, and that's so important for podcasts. I don't know why every podcast doesn't start with, hey, this is the podcast where we talk about pop culture and the president's not involved, and every week we have a new this, and today's topic is blank. Like, even my favorite podcast, Reply All, tremendous show. They don't tell you what their show is about in the beginning. You're just dropped in, and they're like, hello, I'm PJ. This week I talked to a woman who was murdered in prison. I'm like, for your tech internet show? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Fun fact, we've had 12 episodes, and we forgot to say that for 10 of them. So we're back on track, people.
Oh, really? I thought we said it.
Like the last intervening 8 episodes, we have not said it. So.
Oh, really? Or maybe we said it at the end.
I'm glad we drew some attention to it.
Well, I don't listen to podcasts, so.
We're talking Maverick.
Yeah. 1994?
Yep,
year.
confirmed. 1994, Warner Brothers.
Richard
Mel Gibson
Donner.
vehicle, directed by
Richard
Richard
Donner and William Goldman. What the fuck?
Okay,
And-
so William Goldman wrote Princess Bride, which we've covered before, a great writer of this era. Donner did what? The Goonies.
Lethal Weapon.
And the Goonies eventually, right?
Yeah, the Goonies. Lethal
He
Weapon.
did all the Lethal Weapons.
All three.
Yeah.
3 of them. Maybe the fourth.
Powerhouse cast and crew.
Yeah. And Maverick.
And Maverick.
Who put this on the list to cover? Was it you, Abe?
I think so.
Okay, because I remember as a kid having a very special place in my heart for this movie, then forgetting about it for the last 15 years. And when we made a list of movies to cover, I saw that on there. I was like, oh, Maverick. I remember Maverick. It is unique. It made so much sense to realize it's by William Goldman.
Yeah.
Because it's uniquely delightful in the same way Princess Bride is.
Right. Nobody writes movies like William Goldman. He's so fucking good.
They're just fun
Love
and
how
full of
playful
joy.
they are. Yeah. Music
by Randy Newman.
Music by Randy Newman. Any one of the Newmans doing music is gonna be great. And I forgot it was him. I remember rewatching it this morning that I remember liking this music, and I'm like a sucker for Aaron Copland Americana Western music stuff, and so almost everyone does it really well. I'm very excited about it. And then I saw it was Randy Newman. I was like, this is just a fucking... What a day. What a morning.
I guess Aaron Copland must be easy to imitate because if you're not down with the classical, check out Aaron Copland, because all the music you think of as Western music is derivations of his sound. And like you said, Randy Newman is basically just channeling him.
Yeah.
And he does an excellent job. I did think the score was crazily carpeted wall to wall over every scene, without exception. Like, it was weird how the music was just constantly
I think that's
there.
an homage to the TV show.
And I didn't know it was based on a TV show, right? Which is amazing.
Starring
because
James Garner.
James Garner, who plays Sheriff Zane Coop in this. Maverick spoiler alerts. Turns out to be Maverick's father in the end.
Yeah.
That's
played the original Maverick, which makes this movie a sequel to the show Maverick.
Kind of, yeah. Something I never noticed because I hadn't seen this. I watched it maybe a year ago, And before that, I hadn't seen it for like the longest
I'm sorry,
time.
that's insanely frequently. You're like, it's been a while since I've seen Maverick.
So I've seen Maverick 3 times. This last viewing was the first time and I feel so like it's one of those Goldmanisms. It feels so obvious once you realize it, with the twist and all. When Brett says, played by Mel Gibson, my pappy used to say, he says it a few times in the film. The one time he says it in front of the Zane Coupe, he rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm just
I
like,
missed
oh,
it.
shit.
Yeah. I read that on the trivia page, but I didn't notice it at the time.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I couldn't have gotten as a kid because I hadn't seen those movies. They were too intense, my parents decided, was the goddamn Lethal Weapon fucking fourth wall joke, which is actually way ahead of its time as far as willingness to break the reality of the movie for a joke, and I loved. There's a Danny Glover cameo where a bank that Maverick's in gets robbed.
By Danny Glover, Corey Feldman, and
Yep.
someone else.
And without exchanging any words as clues, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson just look at each other and keep double taking like, why do I recognize you?
Nah, I can't be.
And they just go their separate ways, and Danny Glover rides into the sunset saying, God, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Which is famously Murtaugh's catchphrase from
Right.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Right.
And like it's really cute and fun. I'll like lose my mind thinking about it though, because like what does it mean? What are we saying? Are these connected in the same universe? Like,
No.
why did
No.
we do that? Why did
It's
he
a
do
Deadpool.
it?
And there's
It's
very
just like wink,
strange nods in this film. Because not only that, like she shrinks his shirt, which also happens in Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah.
And they're all directed by Richard Donner, so I feel like it's it's Richard Donner really feeling himself.
Yeah.
This was the time that he was like reigning. So Richard Donner's probably like, it's for Donner fans. It's the Donnerverse. He's building
Right.
out this universe.
Right, he's doing a concert. It's like they're gonna expect me to play Piano Man. The audience is gonna want some Lethal Weapon. So
Right.
Yeah.
let me just
One of-
drop some in there.
Also,
One of the Goonies should probably be in it.
also, but it's not just his work too. It's also like I also got Mel Gibson, and I read on one of the trivias that I didn't notice, but it's clear homage to Road Warrior, which is when he after the hanging he is dragging a tree limb at his feet, trying to chase after a horse, and that's like almost a shot for shot.
He's chained by the neck to like a muffler or something that he's dragging through the desert in Road Warrior. I also thought, and these are stretches, but like, or I mean, I thought of them myself and there's no corroboration, but like there's so many homages in it. I mean, there's a bullwhip used. He hates snakes. I feel like there's indie references. There's a giant ball. Nope, that's Mars Attacks.
That's Mars Attacks.
Okay,
There is
full disclosure because these might be released weeks apart. We recorded Mars Attacks and Maverick on the same day.
Yeah.
And
And I'm
Maverick's
having
crossing
trouble.
the beams.
I'm having trouble keeping them separate.
I woke up this morning, watched both of those movies, and then sat across from Michael and Abe talking directly into their faces about them for hours, just getting warmer and warmer and
Yeah,
warmer.
it really makes me want to see a Maverick Attacks Mars movie.
Yeah.
Though. But but also it opens with a guy being hung in the desert by them kicking the horse out from under him, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Alfred Molina, of course, was in this movie,
So
and
good.
Raiders. So
Alfred,
That's something there.
I do think there's stuff there. When he sees the snake, they do the Sam Raimi Zoom, which is a very unique pace that Sam Raimi clearly invented and is like known for. I think there's references throughout to other westerns and stuff that I appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, I think more than anything, because like the other thing about like something that goes unknown, because especially for like our generation, is like literally every featured extra in this movie is either like a country singer or was in the original Maverick TV show.
or
Like
Lois,
all the poker players.
Which was all completely
Lois
lost on
Lane
me,
is there.
yeah.
Margot Kidder is one of the women who is trying to build
Yep.
a mission.
Reba McEntire and Clint Black
It's
are
Dub
thrown
Taylor.
out.
Dub Taylor's final film. He
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a cowboy in a lot of old spaghetti
So
westerns.
it just seemed like let's just do an homage to a thing that is like classic Americana at a time
Yeah.
that frankly American westerns weren't a thing right now.
I
Right.
still
Or
loved
in
it, and I had
94.
no connection to the TV show, so I think it stands
did
on
too.
its own.
yeah.
It also feels like a precursor to like the Ocean's movies and most of the stuff that Sandler has done recently, where it's like, this is an excuse for my famous friends and I to have a vacation. Like now we're in Hawaii making this movie. That Richard Donner was like, wouldn't it be great if we all went to Nevada and we all just hung out and did a Western?
Well, what's funny is there's long sequences clearly shot in Yosemite Valley, because if you've ever been, it's super recognizable. You can see Half Dome. They're right by it. And then it'll cut to him returning to camp, which is just like down the way because he gets back to his party. And it's clearly like Southern California chaparral, hundreds of miles from Yosemite.
Yeah.
Like nothing looks like that anywhere around Yosemite. But so I think it was at a few locations. But yeah, I'm so glad you brought up Ocean's 11, because the big revelation for me this time is that, and we just covered Ocean's 11 with Katie, I thought it was a Western. And then I realized at the end, the whole time, it's just a heist movie.
Yeah.
Exactly like Ocean's 11, meaning that the main twist will be that the main character always had everything in hand, and the whole movie was a scam that was never going to fail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is Ocean's 11. And having just covered Ocean's 11, I got to say, this movie elucidates all the thing I was trying to say about Ocean's 11, because it's so much more enjoyable than Ocean's 11 to me at every turn. And all of the cons felt earned, whereas in Ocean's 11, when they like switched to the SWAT uniforms, I'm like, film grammar dictated that you show us that, and you just omitted it to make a fake twist. In Maverick, all the twists are classic, which makes sense for William Goldman, where it's like a con, like The Sting, where you're like, the scene transpires, and then at the end someone goes, he was in and on it the whole time.
I think the key is that there's fewer characters, so they are paying service to the same kind of concept, the heist film. But in one, it's about the gang, getting the gang together. Everyone plays their role, plays their part. That's one type of, like, that's more of a mobster movie mentality versus this, which is, very much true. Like, it's a smaller, more like The Sting, where it's kind of more noir-esque.
Yeah.
I
agree with that. I want to talk about how much of a physical impact on me, on like my childhood this made. But before we get into any more like celebratory things about this movie, I have a lot of like, but fuck Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah,
in my brain, and like just I want the listeners to know that we're all feeling that this entire time,
Totally.
and like even watching the movie again this morning, getting mad every time I'm charmed by him, because his like main thing in this movie is he's very lucky, and he's also just like a very kind person. He's a good guy who can be pretty selfless a lot of times, and I'm watching it and like I know Maverick is nice to Native Americans, but I know Mel Gibson isn't, and or like even that's not like a specific thing that he has. I'm certain,
but I'm sure he has opinions.
Really strong, very bad opinions.
There's this one moment where Jodie Foster's getting off the stagecoach, and she like gives her he hands the parasol to her instead of like helping her down, which is what she expected. And I went like, that's funny, and then immediately got like, oh yeah, but Mel Gibson has thoughts on women.
Right. I had that same thought earlier in the movie where she's sneaking back into a window, and he's like, hey, do you need a hand? And she says, yeah. And he just like shoves her through the window, and she hits the floor, and then he laughs and walks away. And he's like, that's in his writer. That's like, what would be funny?
Actually, or at least on the trivia page, they were saying there was the scene where she tries to get on the stagecoach and falls on her ass was really a mistake. And they shot it early in the process, and then Richard Donner thought it was funny to add physical comedy to her character, and so from then on he constantly looked for excuses to have her fall off something.
Oh wait, that's why she's clumsy. It wasn't scripted, or what?
Wasn't originally scripted. She was clumsy. The actress actually fell. Jodie Foster fell in one of the first sequences they shot. Richard Donner decided to use that take and say, be clumsy from now on in the future.
That's one of my least favorite tropes in romance films.
Is that the girl is clumsy?
Yeah,
it's this 80s way, or 90s, I guess, but
it's still
this throwback way to humanize a female character. Like, well, what if she's clumsy?
Right. What would make her different? What's her character like? I mean, Maverick is a magic gambler who's very charming, and he's friends with Native Americans, and he can ride a horse and shoot guns, and he's the quickest draw. What if she, like, chokes? What if she falls sometimes? Or like, what if we throw in a fart in post? That's her character.
Amy Wong from Futurama, And he even, that's something I definitely want to bring up. R.E. Mel Gibson, the man. Maverick, and it's fitting that we also discuss Mars Attacks today, because I realize Mars Attacks is a satire, much like Strangelove, that's about the elites at the top of society that we put all our trust in are fucking idiots. And the world gets saved, or the survival comes about because of these like two humble poor families that do various activities that help. This is the opposite. This is like a very standard.
You should have made that point in the Mars Attacks episode.
Well, I'm making it now because what I think is funny about Maverick is it is the story of a magical chosen elite man who dresses in a tuxedo at all times, literally does not know how clothes are washed because his shirt is from Paris, France. Like, he's kind of Frasier-ish.
Yeah.
He's a New York dude.
He's a New York dude who literally has magical gambling powers, can fight off 6 guys, well, that turns out to be fake, is the fastest draw in the West, although it turns out he can't hit shit. And that's what I like, as they start to slowly undermine him. But the fact is, he is a Danny Ocean.
Yeah.
He is magic. He's the chosen one. He's always going to come out on top. And the people that are his challengers are poor, dumb, unwashed, like Hicks.
Right.
So it's just like the opposite movie. And that it troubled me with like what I know about Mel Gibson, especially when I did not realize, and I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it except for the intervening Mel Gibson scandals, that Maverick is bipolar in a frightening way.
Yeah.
Like, there's several scenes where he goes, yeah, you'd think I'd be mad, right? I'll fucking kill you if you ever do that again.
When his shirt
Like,
gets
holding a
scuffed in the
gun to say
beginning,
that.
he's very, very angry in like a not playful way.
In a real way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first time he lets his guard down, because the rest of that scene is the whole beginning of the movie after the stupid opening where he's strangled on the horse.
Yeah.
The rest of that scene is like masterful flex after masterful flex of Maverick of, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to talk my way into this game. That guy doesn't want me in this game for some reason. I'm going to say I'm going to lose for an hour, and then I'm going to do that. And now I'm going to magically like know all your tells.
Like, I'm a master of psychology and human behavior.
Here's a gunfighter. I'm gonna act like I'm spineless right now, and then like boom, I'm the fastest.
Turn out
draw
to be
in the
a
West.
better gunfighter.
Turns out I'm great. Get called gutless by a lot of people. Beat up 6 guys. Do it charmingly and
Constantly
flex all day.
Self-deprecating jokes
And
while
one by
I'm
one.
doing it.
Oh.
Get the only
House
woman
of
in the
Cards.
room to fall in love with me over the course of doing all these things.
Yeah. And then he gets a scuff on his shirt and fucking flips out, and he just like loses his mind and is not playing the Maverick character anymore. It's just playing.
He's playing Lethal Weapon, kind
Some
of.
PA
That's
was
what
late
I think-
with Mel Gibson's coffee.
Yeah.
No, I think I think they're dipping into the Lethal Weapon thing.
Where
They're
he
like,
can flip out on a
yeah,
dime.
they want that because that's his character. So it's kind of like reminiscent of that.
But at the same time, nowadays, when you see Mel Gibson go, my lucky shirt is fucking scuffed. You, woman, wash my shirt. You're like, ooh,
No.
Mel Gibson, less charming.
Do not say the word Jews. Do not say the word Jews.
Yeah.
But he is charming in this movie, which makes me really
So
mad.
charming.
But the impact, like my family loved this movie.
He always likes to be called Arthur.
Yeah.
He says about his mule.
Yeah.
When this movie came out, 2 things happened with my brothers and me. We all got little cowboy guns and tried to like toy ones, obviously, and just like practiced spinning them for a long time. Like we just like wanted to be Maverick quick draw.
Oh,
and
damn
also
thing won't stay in the holster. Must be a spring in there.
Must be a spring in there. And everyone in my family will occasionally, frequently alone, pull out a deck of cards and see if I can make the ace of spades come out magically. And I cannot. But
Really? Never? Because also in his narration,
maybe once, but like
Once
in
out
his
of 52
narration,
times,
he's-
probably.
That's what I was.
when I run out of cards, sure.
Because in the narration, he says the whole purpose of my life, and of course, it ends up winning the day at the end, which he didn't need because he already had the money in hand. Is his ability to magically pull an ace of spades, and he says, of course, it doesn't always work. In fact, it's never worked.
Yeah.
And he's a lifetime poker player who has always tried to do this since he was a child. It's actually crazy that he's never got to the ace of spades before.
It's not that crazy.
If he's done it
because
hundreds of times?
Yeah, but it's like, what is it? There's more combinations of, like, it's some outrageous scale number. More combinations of a way that, like, the way that a deck can be shuffled. Very, very high probability. In fact, it's infinitesimal that any other deck that anyone in the world has ever shuffled is exactly like that.
It's also
right,
remember
but am
that
I wrong? And is my understanding of probability wrong that if he did it 52 times, it should happen once? Is
also-
that not
it's
how
worth
it works?
remembering
it's like
that-
52 factorial.
it's worth remembering that the game isn't I can find the ace of spades whenever I want. is the magic trick, and I've never done it before. The game is you can get the card you want by thinking about it really hard. So I think if he was just trying to get the ace of spades and had infinite time, that seems likely that he would find the ace of spades. But he's saying over hundreds of times being in poker games, being like, two of clubs, fuck, ace of spades. Like, just not being able to
I thought it was
actualize-
always ace of spades because we
the
see him
coolest
do
card.
it 3 times and he always goes, ace of spades, come on, ace of spades. And the opening shot is an ace of spades and the winning card is an ace of spades.
Yeah.
But you're right, why wouldn't he, if he needed an 8 of hearts, that's what he would be hoping
he also,
for,
in the
obviously.
movie, materializes the Queen of Hearts after he sees Jodie Foster at one point. He's
Oh.
like, this is after he's done the magic
didn't
trick for
notice
real.
that.
And she leaves him to wherever the fuck she claims to be from.
Mobile,
Pulls out a
Alabama.
card. It's Queen of Hearts, looks off at her and like smiles to himself.
Yeah.
I like
also
that. I didn't notice.
That's not the only way he could have won that hand against Alfred Molina.
At the end, he
Angel?
didn't need the ace. He could have had a small straight, right?
Oh, he could have had a straight
Straight
flush.
to the 10.
Right, it's
Yeah,
still a
with
straight flush. It
9
didn't
to
need to
9
be.
to queen instead of 10 to king.
Or 9
10 to
9 to
Right.
king instead of 10 to ace.
ace. Yeah.
Also,
Just less
did you
dramatic
notice?
if he pulled out the card and it was like,
I just-
it was a 9. It's I wanted the ace, but I still won.
See, that's the thing. That's why I think it's a beautiful thing, because it's William Goldman to me saying like he not just won, he won in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Right, and also he had always won because, as it turns out, there was a complicated scam involving his father as chief of security for the competition, so they were always going to get the money, even if he lost. Which I think is funny because the whole theme of the thing is he's only doing this to see how good of a poker player he is.
Yeah.
But no, he always wanted the money and was
Right.
going to get the money.
Did you guys notice that at one point I wrote it down because Annabelle Bransford, Jodie Foster, says if by small when he gets the money for her. He says, if by some small chance you happen to win, I'll be expecting 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And then Foster replies, which doesn't make sense, but it's just cute. Well, then I'll be expecting 50% of your winnings, Mr. Maverick. At the end of the movie, Mrs. Branford ends up making off with 50% of the winnings.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so
Everything works out.
yeah. She called her shot and she made it.
I really wanted to play poker again after watching this movie. So I haven't played poker in a while. Wanted to smoke cigars. Didn't want to
Sit
take
in
a
the
bath
bath?
with my dad. Really strange thing. Really strange choice this movie made. It was like,
And they-
let's celebrate by getting in this tub together.
Then
And-
Jodie Foster comes in and makes a joke about how, I guess the water's chilly because you both have small dicks and I can see the resemblance. And they look at each other's dicks.
Yeah.
They like peek over and go like, is she right? Oh, Pa, your dick is a good size. I don't know what she's going on about.
Came from the same dick stock.
Did you guys notice that his very first winning hand in the entire movie is 3 6s? Mel Gibson, 666. I just think it's good foreshadowing for how he was going to
Weird
turn out.
analysis.
How he was going to turn out as a person. No, he wins with 3 6s twice in the movie. I don't like why would you put? Why would it be that? It's got to mean
The
something.
amounts of... I don't think it
Is
does.
Satan.
The
I
number
don't
of the
think it
beast.
does. I mean, that's actually a mistranslation of the Bible. You guys, 616 is the number of the beast, not 666. And it's not even
okay.
necessarily an evil thing. We don't know what it means.
But
You've
colloquially,
always been gutless.
Bible. All right, here's something I want to talk about, which is one of the things that I like, and stop me if it's just like, yeah, everyone knows this, because it feels so obvious once you think about it. But I don't know why it took me so much work to get here. I think it's one of the most brilliant parts of this script, which is just the idea that literally every character, except for the characters we don't really get to know, like one of the people on the boat. Or
I
whatever.
kept looking for Dan Hedaya because I love him the whole movie,
Right.
and he is billed in the opening credits with a full name.
He's just a gambler.
He's just a gambler who doesn't speak in the background of some of the poker shots.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Okay, so here's what I'm getting at: is every single person in this movie by the end of the film does something dishonest by the end of the film. Every single person. You cannot name one.
Yeah.
Even the church building nuns guilt trip Maverick into getting
Right.
back 10%. Like everyone is playing everyone constantly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's crazy. Yeah, it's a movie about but that's not true about Ocean's 11.
Right.
Like Tess is not doing schemes. Like there's always characters who are like
Right.
fallout happens.
Every character's a
Everyone,
con man. Jodie
literally
Foster
everyone.
is a con man.
The Commodore.
It's a pretty
Chief
cynical
Joseph
point
is
of
a
view.
con
Yeah,
man.
even Graham Greene is scamming him out of some of the money that.
Yeah, he plays Joseph.
That he earned by
Yeah.
getting shot by the Russian dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Russian
Russian dude,
himself.
blameless.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's hunting man.
Is
but
that a scam
otherwise,
though?
yeah.
Is that dishonest?
The only guy that I
Mel
can
Gibson.
see, the only guy that I, once again, this kind of goes with the caveat of there's obviously extras. Some of
Yeah.
them are probably very good people. But the only character that I can think of is that fucking guy who leaves the poker table and tips his hat and just exits.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy.
No, there's a couple good people. There's also that guy who Jodie Foster knocks out and is like, well, this has been a delight and it was worth every penny. I hope
Really
you
enjoyed
win.
losing to you.
Yeah.
There's another guy
There's
that
a couple like decent people at the poker tournament
My-
who are extras essentially.
But yeah.
spirit animal guy is a guy who gets up, walks away from the table, stops, looks back, and like the weight of everything he just did falls on him, and he like staggers a little bit.
I
It's
love
like,
that shot.
Yeah, yeah.
He
I've
leans
also
against
lost
the
money.
column. He leans against the column and covers his face after like he had just walked off really confidently. Yeah.
Without saying a word, putting so much into a moment of like, your partner doesn't know you're here. Your wife doesn't know that you did this, and you thought coming home with $500,000 would be such a great surprise, but coming home down $25,000 is the reality
Yeah.
now.
Oh, and that old man that they threw off the boat for
Oh
cheating.
my fucking God, he's
he
fucking dead.
drowned, right?
He's dead.
He can't swim to shore from the
Yeah.
boat. He's like
What
an
a, what a
80-year-old
cute
man.
way of falling off a boat,
Yeah.
by the way.
Thank you,
Like,
Sheriff.
holds his
Thank
hat.
you, Coop.
Speaking of people who are dead on the boat, I mean, I know it doesn't.
D.O.B.?
happen 'cause They
Dead on boat.
Maverick gets trapped in his motel room, and it gets lit on fire, and he has to sneak out by going on the steamroller thing.
Yeah.
And then dramatically makes it in time for the game, sits down and tells no one. That boat is still on fire. He left his room on fire and sat down
That's
and was like,
funny.
let's play.
Yeah. No one's ever. Holy shit, the boat's on fire.
Some Casino
Oh,
Royale shit.
yeah, there's good moments like that. Alfred Molina drops one of the all-time lines. He says, I was always going to get Maverick, but this time it's personal.
Yeah.
I love that. They played trope hockey real hard in
Yeah.
this movie.
I also love like it feels like a Naked Gun nod of like the whole how dumb the six guys who are like fake the fight with Mel, like he's like here's $100
Give me change.
give me change, and then he ends up
They never reveal that the 100 is counterfeit, but you got to assume it is, right? I assume that
Either
was a
way, he
con
ends
where he
up
got
in
real
the-
money by trading fake money.
I thought he
Right.
got the money that he got equal to more than $100.
Yeah, I thought that
or,
was the bit.
Or exactly $100.
Oh, I see.
or it could have also been counterfeit, but I
I
don't
wasn't
think
doing
they
any
ever did
math.
that.
I don't think
Yeah.
they gave you an opportunity to do math.
They don't do the reveal where you find out how that con works, but you assume it works because everything always works
They
out.
are.
And they're
Maverick.
like,
they
"Oh,
are so
great."
cartoonish. You're right about them. That Alfred Molina is just like, what's so fucking funny over here? And they're like, oh, we're just laughing about getting paid by Maverick to pretend to get beat up to intimidate. You're the Rube in this one. You're our Mark. That's right. That's why it's funny to us.
He paid y'all to fall down. Should have called me. I would have let you fall down for free, which doesn't make sense
not-
because they got paid by him.
You're misunderstanding this transaction, Angel.
They're like, oh, you could beat us up for another 100.
I don't understand why. So, Maverick and Pappy Coop were always going to end up with the money because Coop was always going to double cross the Commodore, and the Commodore was going to either win the money or Coop was going to steal it from the winner, no matter what. They called an Angel to murder Maverick, and
Which
also
Coop didn't know about.
Coop didn't know about.
Commodore did that.
And Angel was working with the dealer to cheat at the game.
What?
So I'm in the weeds. Yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
like
The thing that occurred to me is
the corruption of the dealer. I think really
also,
rings out strangely to me.
Did the Commodore always know, like months in advance? There's this one poker player, Brett Maverick. He intends to enter the competition, and if he does, he will win. I have to murder him. Like, how did he know that Maverick was his greatest ultimate threat that needed to be neutralized? And then furthermore, I think something that's, I guess, believable because he's old and it could be a decision you could make, but it's still sad and they kind of gloss over it. is at the very end, Maverick says to Coop, because Coop really was a lawman for many years, because obviously, because his reputation precedes him, and that's how he gets this job. And then Maverick's like, how does it feel, you old man? You were so proud of being like a force for good, and now everyone will forever know that you're like a yellow-bellied traitor criminal. And he goes, you're right. I threw away everything I've worked my whole life to gain for that money. And he's like, but at least we got the money. And I'm like, wait, that's sad for that man.
You can't
That's
go
crazy.
home. The two of you can't go anywhere together. You have to
It's so
stay in
much
these
money,
tubs.
though.
I'm saying I guess he did decide I'm an old man now, fuck it. But it's it's hard for me to think of like Wyatt Earp raising a shithead son who's a con man. And then the son is like, do you want to help me rob something? And he's like, I guess I'm old. Why not? Let's rob it.
I was reading about the inflation rate between when this is supposed to happen and now. $25,000, which was the buy-in, would be today's money over $600,000. So, and how many people?
Sure.
So
we're
I'm
talking
not throwing away my life's work.
So
and,
a half
but for
million
like-
is 6 million roughly then. Right?
No. We're talking like $50 million.
Oh, right. No, double that. Yes, it's
Yeah.
like 12 million. Because 6 would be 250. And 250 times 2 is 5.
But-
That's half a million.
All right, we'll
I
cut
could be
this out.
wrong.
Divide $1 million by 250,000. How many times is that?
4.
No,
Yes.
40.
250,000 is 1/4 of 1
25,000.
million.
Sorry, I may have missed.
But 25,000 is the buy-in, not the prize.
that's
prize
where all the
is-
prize is coming from.
Right?
So that's where the $1 million comes from. Now, if you do,
No, it's not a million. It's a half a million.
I thought it was $1 million and they were going to split
It's
it.
definitely a
It's
half a
half a
million.
million.
Oh, it's a $500,000. Okay, so
It's
it's
still,
like,
I agree with you that it's a
We're
lot
gonna
of money, but
no,
like,
we're figuring this out. 25,000 is to 600,000 as half a million is to X.
yeah.
So X 25,000 X equals 500,000 times. Fuck it, move on.
yeah, I agree that it's a lot of money. I mean, $500,000 is still a lot of money right now, and even with inflation, it would be some large amount of money. We all
I think
agree.
it's 12 million or 120 million.
Okay,
But I'm not sure which.
neither of those is the right amount of money for me to throw
Throw
away,
in your-
like my identity,
Like your legacy for all
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Coop
But
is.
125 million though.
yeah, exactly. There's a line for somebody, but I think it's because it's. I mean, obviously, it's just because it's a fun movie, but I think it's like you mention it as a sequel, and I don't know, like you can't think of it like that because if Zane Cooper is this like long con,
Then
like
he's not
lawman,
Brett
then-
Maverick. Right.
So was he Brett Maverick and then like dipped out and then like came back as Zane Cooper and became a lawman? Like,
No, I think you're right that it's not. I think it's like Danny Glover where it's like he's not literally Maverick, but it's cute that he's in this because he
Yeah.
played Maverick.
Speaking of magic, though, there was a deleted scene
Yup.
With a wizard.
with a wizard where he's like, even though he doesn't pull out the ace of spades, he says straight the person who's I forget who's playing the
Linda Hamilton,
no fucking
is playing
way.
whom?
the wizard.
Wait,
Linda Hamilton.
there's a
Yeah.
wizard?
No, this is
Yeah.
a cut scene
What do you
Cutscene with like a magic person
at the beginning.
I was joking when I said
Oh really?
wizard.
Oh no,
No,
you're
yeah.
spot on.
So there's a deleted scene where he interacts with a magic
so
person.
the scene
You pulled wizard out of a deck of cards, and you were correct.
You were
That was
correct.
the right
So
thing.
here's the scene. The scene is that Maverick goes to this person like an alleyway or whatever, and is like,
What is she, a shaman or what?
yeah, and
She's Linda Hamilton from Terminator 2.
yeah,
Okay.
she they have a discussion at some, I guess, about like he thinks he's magic. So, and he can
And
pull
she's
a card.
like, the
And
machines
she's
will
like,
bathe us all
prove
in
it, prove it. And Maverick tries it and fails, but then she like either to him or like direct to camera, I assume, just says like he didn't pull it off, but there's magic in him. Like
Yeah.
I can tell you're magical.
She
and
makes
at
it
some point
like
it'll happen.
she makes it definitely official and not this could just be luck. That he is a person with magic inside of him.
Do you think this is a movie about luck or fate or both, or does it just use those things as props but make no comment about
I think
them?
we use them as props. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I could not tell if there's like lines that would be resonant to that theme, because he often says like, no, it's not skill. I just get lucky sometimes. That's all. And Foster says twice, I'm just having a run of bad luck. So like luck is this mystical force, but he also talks about how he's magic in the chosen one, which would
Yep.
be like fate. And then they just kind of drop it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run of
Okay.
Bad Luck is also a song during the beginning of the poker tournament by Clint Black. who's
They
in the
play
movie.
they play 2 country songs that are not Randy Newman very clearly in the third act, and I hate them both very much. They're like turbo tonk classic country songs. And do you know were they written for the film? Because the lyrics do mirror what's
they
going
weren't.
on.
Or
They
at
were
least the
just
Clint
like-
Black one
Yeah.
wasn't
Right.
was on an album.
But it's like, lady, don't you mess around on me.
Maverick is kind of like magic.
pull out that ace of spades, yo.
Burt Maverick.
There's another of the least believable parts of this movie for me is when he takes out the ace of spades and looks at it. It's very clear that people behind him would be able to see his card and start screaming. And they just didn't. Like, he takes out
Right.
the card and there's no one behind him that's just like, you did it. Why aren't you screaming, Maverick? You got it.
Yeah, you did it. Oh, he did it. What a great guy. He also, it's like a cardinal sin in poker. He like slow rolls it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and also the Commodore always does that. This is in like,
Is that a cardinal sin in poker?
yeah, you're not supposed to show your hand one by one. You're supposed to flop.
Why?
it over.
It's so much more dramatic.
I know, but
I think that's
seasoned
why.
card players are like,
I think
you're
because
making,
you're not allowed to like ruffle people that way. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's cheat. But people do all kinds of fucking
Yeah,
head
I
games
don't-
to get in your head. I don't know.
I'm not.
I don't know enough about poker.
I'm not a good poker player. So.
I'm still in the weeds with this dealer who's working with Angel. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense to
I
me.
don't. Yeah,
So-
did the Commodore know that he was cheating
Right.
with Angel?
And was Angel cheating the entire game? Is he like not a good poker player?
And was
What is he
Angel-
doing?
Was
Yeah.
Angel cheating on the Commodore's behalf, or did he have his own sub agenda that cut in the dealer?
That is what I think it is, just based off of the rules of this movie.
Is
everyone's
everyone-
dishonest all the time
So
to each
Angel
other.
must also lie
There's
to the
double
Commodore.
crossing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So he's still going to try to win and get the money because there's money on the table.
What a movie.
What a movie.
Yeah, they get half the money because Maverick stowed it in his boots.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to figure out this math.
What
It
a
all
mean
still-
thing Joseph did.
Oh, I
by
like-
taking his money while he
Yeah.
wasn't looking and showing him
That's
treasure.
And having him get shot.
It's
by
such a great
rifle.
prank. I really love that character, and it's difficult and in fact wrong to give any credit for any kind of progressiveness to a movie with Mel Gibson and a character who is called Angel only once, but for the most part is the Spaniard.
Oh, man,
played by Alfred Molina.
His introduction is, the first time I slapped eyes on this hombre, I smelled trouble and refried beans.
That's right. That's
And you're
right.
like, oh boy.
But Graham Greene, who you recognize as a phenomenal actor who's played a Native American almost any time they have
Yep.
needed.
Talks out the side of his mouth in a very pleasing
Yeah,
way.
yeah, he's in Die Hard with a Vengeance, and he's great in it. He's great in
TV
everything.
actor too.
He was, I thought a fairly sensitive portrayal, and I know like 2 Native Americans in my life, so I'm not
Yeah.
I'm talking out of my ass here, but he wasn't played for laughs. He was competent. He was
There were laughs,
funny.
but the things you laughed that he got our number. Like, he would bitch about the white man,
Right.
in ways that you're like, that's funny. That's,
He wasn't
yeah.
played for laughs. Is the
Exactly,
thing.
yeah.
He's a character that's allowed to be funny and
Yeah.
allowed to be sharp and like he does his little pranks and like I bought their friendship, which must have been a real stretch for Mel Gibson.
Yes.
But I really thought like, yeah, these guys have been around together. This is a guy that Maverick would like.
And they even gave Mel Gibson the line, yeah, I try to shoot an Indian a day. You know, I figure it's their fault for being on our land before we got here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that must have burned your mouth
Yeah.
to say, Mel Gibson.
Just sitting on set like,
You think
I
the
believe
natives
the
should-
first half of this line.
Yeah.
Anyway, Graham Greene, great
Abe
job.
looks like he's about to defend Mel in a big way.
No, I just didn't.
Oh,
I
was
don't know.
hoping one of us would be diehard like,
No.
I love Mel Gibson.
I just don't know what his views on Native Americans are.
I don't either.
We all
I'm-
know what he thinks about.
I
the
know his
Jews.
general views on like the races, but we haven't heard him speak on Native Americans.
It would be
specifically. It's
it
part
would
of
be
the parcel, but-
shocking but not impossible for me
Yes.
to find out that he really loves Native Americans.
And
Like he's
think-
like this is their
and
land
thinks
first.
this is their land and they should take it back. Yeah, I
But
just
I'm-
don't know.
Going out on a limb because I don't care for Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right on this.
I think at this point I assume ill intention in his
Yeah.
heart most of the time. But for the script writer, it's incredibly progressive to the point where you're like, I don't know if a cowboy would even be that cognizant at that time, but it's
Yeah.
fun to have that line in there.
What did you guys think about narration from a writing standpoint? Because I think about narration in movies a lot, and sometimes I think it's crutch. I think when it's done well, it's the most fun you can have in the world. This one does what a lot of movies do with narration, where it starts with it, and then it goes away, and you forget it until he leaves Chief Joe's camp. Like he talks in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, I first laid eyes on this hombre, and now I bet you're probably wondering why I'm up in this tree." End of narration until he leaves Joseph's camp.
50
and is
minutes later.
Yeah, he's like, well, I had to leave Joe's camp because if I stuck around long enough, he would do some kind of scheme and try to get me out of my money. So it was time to get back to the other characters.
Guess
and
I'll
then
hit the old dusty trail.
Then narration's gone again. Then that's it.
Yeah, it's not great.
And then at the end, right before credits, he goes, "This has been Brett Maverick. Hoping you all enjoyed the movie." That's
Stick around. My career's going to take some strange twists.
Yeah, I think that's the worst form of narration is inconsistent narration that you didn't need because the plot points were clear without it. And similarly, I didn't need the time disjoint. I don't know why it started with him being hanged. Then at the midpoint, we catch up to him being hanged. And then a series of additional adventures ensue. Yeah. It's really just a bunch of adventures. One of which is the time he almost got hanged. And I didn't need to like start with it like it was going to be important.
It starts so seriously too.
Yeah.
Like it's the least fun part of the movie is him looking beaten down with a rope around his throat.
Yeah.
Being sad and like dirty. We cut away from that and are immediately like, this is what the movie is like. Now we're in the fun parts of the movie.
He's always clean, like, no matter what, in the West, where that's impossible.
Here's my opinion on it is that like this is once again because I think it's poorly used, you know, especially in the hands of a different pen. Like it's not even good writing, but at least here it's like, oh, it's cute turns of phrase and stuff, but it's not great. But here's the power of William Goldman to me is that he can recognize that this is not why we're here, and this movie isn't going to be changing things. It's just a fun little Western. Yeah. And it's narration in this way was indicative of those old Westerns, especially the TV show, because it came from TV, and TV had to be cheap and just like, oh, we got to cut the scene for time, so let's just turn that into a quick expositional, like narration. Yeah. So I think when he's writing this, he's going, I kind of need it, but it's not that I need it. It's just, it's a thing, a part of my bag of tricks that I can use as writing this type of story. I should use it once or twice, but like not be reliant upon it. You know?
And if you want to start your movie with, I bet you're wondering how I ended up here, record scratch, you need narration. That's
right. Yeah. It was a dark and stormy night or whatever, like he knows it's bad and it's kind of tongue in cheek, even though it's effective, which makes me go, I don't know if of course he knows.
Knowing it's bad, I guess I just wish movies like this would be like, and then I moseyed into town. I was just $2,000 short. Okay, you're not going to hear from me for a while because there's other people for me to interact with now. I've gotten to where I need to go. I'll check back with you when I'm written myself into another corner.
I think that makes a lot of sense if Daniel O'Brien was writing this film because like we are all pop culture mechanisms that just like churn out. Like, here's what we're thinking about things while we're thinking about them.
I think every movie should have an intermission break where Quentin Tarantino comes on and recaps the story.
So here's what's happening. I'm Quentin Tarantino.
I did the math while you guys were talking. It's $12 million.
$12 million.
Okay, was one of you right?
$500,000 would be $12 million.
I thought equivalent. It was $1 million for some.
And that's in 2004 terms.
So I thought it was.
So that's 14 years ago. So even more.
Wait, really?
Enough to to throw away your career and your legacy.
Not enough to change my life entirely.
Especially because it's true that
not even enough to get me to a point where I'm James Coburn lifting a tree branch that I'm going to bludgeon the Commodore to death with.
Which he doesn't.
He
does decide it's not worth it to kill a man for the money.
Look at his Mel Gibson family eyes. That he's like, he only stops himself when he hears himself out loud say, I've never killed anyone in cold blood before.
But here I go.
You know what? I probably shouldn't do that.
And he goes, and I guess I won't.
Yeah. Because normally every day I wake up and I'm like, I didn't kill anyone in cold blood before, and I won't start today. And nothing's going to push me any closer.
Ho hum, going about my day. Didn't kill anybody again.
I I like comparing Mel Gibson to Tom Cruise because they're both insane.
Sure.
But in such opposite ways. Like I would never expect Mel Gibson to do a stunt of his own because I don't think he cares or gets cancer. So I just noticed several things this watch through, like when he's dangling off the cliff. First of all, that's his actual father in retrospect. And his son is dangling off a cliff and he's like, don't help me ever again. And he goes, okay. And then he's like, no, help me. I'm going to fall off my cliff to certain death.
Pulled a gun on his father.
That's true, but then his father will let him fall off a cliff to his death.
I mean, they're both terrible.
Some of the scenes are really weird in retrospect if you watch it knowing their father and son the whole time, where you're like, he doesn't care if his son dies, like, at all. He really doesn't.
And the only person they have to, like, actually
Con.
prove it is Annabelle, who we've already proven if they don't go at lengths to get her in the game, she's not going to get in the game.
Well, that's a question I had for you guys. When he survives the hanging and it cuts to, okay, now he's at the riverboat. I guess the rest of his trip was uneventful. He's in the tournament. Let's start Act 3. Jodie Foster's there, and it's taken for granted that, A, she has $600,000 almost to enter the tournament, or Maverick, who's been
$25,000.
Right, but I mean equivalent of today.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying, so I'm saying, like, he stakes a portion of her thing, but she somehow has enough money. When did she get so good at poker she decided she was going to enter this tournament? She learned about it from Maverick blowing through town and mentioning it at a poker game.
Wasn't she always going to do the tournament?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I missed it,
She
but
has
I didn't
a
understand.
terrible Southern
like,
accent.
When did she decide to enter? I never see that.
But here's the thing: is that he was able to identify over the course of the movie 3 different tells, and that's funny to me that Annabelle never once goes like, "Oh, maybe I'm not as good of a poker player."
Right.
And
as
you
I
never
thought."
see her win at poker, and then at the tournament she acquits herself very well all of a sudden,
I think
which
her-
is surprising.
I think her main thing is con artist. I think she's a
pool sharking.
thief and a con woman, and poker is another type of con she could do. It seemed weird that I didn't even remember this when Coop, like his introduction into the movie. It's not even, no one ever articulates, we're all going to the same place, right?
That's what I mean.
They're like, we're gonna share a coach. He's like, that's fine. You better not be a shithead, Maverick. I'm a cop.
Also,
I'm on my way to this poker thing. Perhaps you guys are aware of it.
Maverick also somehow knows that en route, the coach will stop in an area where Chief Joseph will run into him, which he needs to happen because Chief Joseph owes him $1,000.
Yeah.
See, I don't
That's
think
just
that's
unexplained.
needed. I think he's just trying to get money. Like he has
You think
soda
it is
oats
coincidence?
everywhere in this area.
So it's coincidence that they find
I think
Chief
it's supposed
Joseph?
to be
Okay.
coincidental because there's no way that he could have known that the stagecoach or the guy would die.
Or that the guy would die.
Yeah.
So the idea is that Maverick is constantly just rough and tumbling his way through improvising cons.
Yeah.
And like he could have run into any number of guys and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you owe me money. I need money."
Right. That's
Yeah.
a strange character trait of Mavericks because it seems inconsistent because he's a guy who's always playing poker and money seems very important to him. And, you know, he's not going to let you rob him, obviously. But he just like very freely lends money to people all the time.
And
which
nuns
seemed very
can
strange.
guilt him into giving money back, even though he doesn't seem like a religious guy who would care
No.
about that. Yeah.
And like, you nuns are short $3,000 for your mission. There's no rule that says you need $33,000 or $30,000 for a mission. Start small. It's fine.
That was
like $3,000 does not a huge
Yeah.
difference make. I don't think if you're
he has
starting a mission.
a really big heart for an unrepentant gunfighting robber. Yeah. He does.
That banker in the first scene is just like, yeah, I know I'm a bank, but I don't have the $1,000 I owe you. And he's like, oh, come on.
Come on, Eugene.
Ugh. All right. Well, now is when I need it, but I guess I'll just leave.
But, speaking of the coach driver dying, that is so. It's not, just to finish my little packet about Mel Gibson stunts. Did you notice when he's dangling off the cliff?
Oh, right.
When he says "Never help me again" and he climbs up, he clearly steps on a ledge and uses his legs to like get up, and like it completely obliterates the suspension of disbelief. And then similarly, I don't think I've ever seen a closer shot cut to a wider shot than when he is leaping up from horse to horse up the front of the stagecoach, where it's like super close on Mel Gibson with a rein just whipping in front of his face for 4 seconds. super wide of a guy who looks like young Ted Danson,
Right.
jumping to the next horse, super close of Mel Gibson going,
Right.
whew, that was tough jumping from that horse.
Camera cuts over to Joe Latrulio going, wow, he's doing it. He's jumping from horse to horse.
He did it. He saved them all.
Oh my god.
I don't wish this were the Bechdel cast. I'm happy, but with the company that I have. But I want more perspective on the Jodie Foster character, which in my head growing up in the 90s was a really cool, strong female character to me because she was allowed to be funny and she like outsmarted people and she gets the last laugh at the end of the movie. But now I'm watching it and all of that is still true, but she's such a passive character, and just even being in love with Mel Gibson when it seems nice or that it might suit her, like when he does a brave thing, then she's in love with him. And
Literally goes like, oh, isn't he just fantastic?
Yeah.
And you're like, last scene you were doing the It Happened One Night thing where you're like, I hate you. Well, I hate you more. Yeah.
And then just like when he shows up and magics her the money because he sees the Russian guy and gets to swindle him out of money. It's just like, yeah, she's really swooning. You came in and saved the day for her, Maverick. I don't know. I like her utility as a character seems worse than it was
It's very
in
stilted,
my
yeah.
memory. And like
Her
if
agent-
she
yeah.
was swindling him the entire time and not actually ever in love with him, I'm on board. Like if she showed up to their bathhouse and was like, this is how I actually talk. I've been here for the ride. It's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm the Jackal. But they didn't do that. She's still like kind of playfully in love with Maverick.
And they imply, like, I think there's supposed to be a love story for the ages because my question is what now? Maverick's achieved not only, oh, I am magic, I'm the best poker player in the world, and I'm set for life. And I saw my dad's dick. Like, things are looking good for Maverick. And
My dick is the same as everyone's dick in this room, so I feel good.
And I assume they'd either be on the lam forever, but instead they're like, well, she stole half our money. And he's like, you don't seem upset. And he's like, you know why? Because it's going to be fun getting it back. So it implies a sequel that we know we're not going to see,
Right.
where it's like robbers in love hunting each other.
Right.
That's how they flirt, is chasing each other across the West.
Forever and always
for the
being
money.
paranoid.
Yeah.
Just like I wanted like cigar in his mouth, a wink over to be like, we're going to find that money. Even if we have to kill her. Just like extrapolate your thing, man.
I was
Remember.
like, if you guys are in love, can't you pool the money and end this madness? But he's like, we'll fucking find her, dude. And then I will kiss her once and we'll get out of there.
I know you said
Gotta play it slow.
I know you said that you're like, it'd be funny if she comes in like, this is my voice, but it now dawns on me that we've never heard Jodie Foster's real voice because she even said, he's like, you don't have a southern accent. She's like, I always thought men love my southern.
He's like, oh, I
in
love
her
it,
southern
I love it.
accent.
It's just, it's not authentic.
yeah, and it's just like, to me, I was like, oh, and then she talks like that the whole entire
yeah,
film.
they never dropped that
So-
to her to be like, this is me.
Yeah, it could be in the sequel that'll never happen.
Oh,
man.
I got your booed money, motherfucker.
Yeah,
That's right. He does tell her that her accent is inconsistent. I guess. And she falls a lot. I guess she just sucks in this movie. I guess I'm just like
No.
really
Yeah.
taken by Jodie
No,
Foster.
because she does hold her own in the like tete-a-tete of two con men. I like her introductory sequence where
yeah.
she basically, I realized Maverick's power is, besides he's like House, or I don't know, whatever character you want to fill in. He sees your
House.
tell perfectly. I guess Sherlock Holmes. He's a master of human reading or whatever.
No, I was saying House before I even knew why you were making that
Yeah.
comparison. I was like, I do want to say House. Come on.
But his other thing is
House
it's-
always wins. All right.
It's last. It's the art of war. You always feign like you're worse at your thing and then reveal that you're good at it. That's his only trick. He acts like he's bad at poker and it turns out he's good. When he enters the fist fight, he pretends to use the wrong fist forward and then switches at the last second and is good at fighting.
Yeah.
Similar to Princess Bride, I'm not left-handed, neither am I. And I realized Jodie Foster then pulls the same con on him, which I like, which is and it's meta, she runs a con that is a fairly transparent con that she knows he will catch her in, and pretends, damn, well, now that I failed my con, I guess let's just really bone. And that is the real con. And I was like, that's like a very good maneuver.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that her agency is never the focus. It was unclear to me why she did the things she did, unless it's just that she's like, I kind of have a crush on this Maverick guy. I will follow him across the state just to keep spending more time with him and seeing where this goes.
I also like that in a call ahead to asshole wizards and Harry Potter, the ultimate con is she shows up with a gun and takes their money.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm one of the best con artists, and I waited for you guys to be wet and naked and away from your guns, and now I'm here with my gun.
Yeah.
And
The ultimate con.
There's also 3 or 4 times in this movie where people point loaded guns at someone's face as a joke, and the other person agrees that's a pretty funny joke.
Yes.
Which I find a weird interaction.
yeah.
Father to son, like Mel Gibson to his friend who's asleep. His friend wakes up and there's a gun in his face. And
Yeah, like the bank teller, and then like screams at him, and then someone's like, being robbed. No. There's just a bit we play.
Yeah.
I point a gun, and he screams.
Yeah.
We're old friends. He does owe me money, and I do want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Look, roll the dice, kid.
There's a weird resentful subtext here, but you know.
But hijinks, the West.
I also, this is only related because it's guns. When he's doing the fight, why does he tell those kids, if I start to lose, shoot me?
I really
don't
wanna
understand
know
that.
Yeah, who's
He
he
gets-
trying to con there?
He gets in a fist fight that he knows he's gonna win because he's paid the dudes to take a fall, and then he tells some kids, not so that the crowd can overhear, only the kids. Here's my loaded gun. If I'm losing the fight, shoot me. He knows they're not gonna shoot him because he knows he's gonna win the fight. But for whose benefit was
Right,
that?
that's not like that's not a tough guy thing to say. That's
Is it
not
like,
like
I'm so scared of pain that I'd rather be
right.
dead?
That's what it seems like.
Than
It,
get my
that's,
ass
it seems
beat?
like that's what he's saying. Is like, I'm gonna be so fucking embarrassed if these 6 guys beat me up. So just kill me.
now.
I can't even spend another minute being alive.
If I get a couple cracked ribs, it's not worth it to live anymore. Yeah, that was weird. I had that same question. But it's such a, I don't know, con movies let stuff slip through the cracks.
Yeah, and it's a refrigerator moment or a ghost on the staircase moment where certainly the first time I hear
Oh,
it.
you mean nuking the fridge moment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Certainly the first
refrigerator
time I
on the
hear it, I
staircase.
probably just like take it at face value. That's a cool thing to say, and then hours
Yeah.
later was like, no, it's not. Getting shot isn't cool.
Yeah.
But certainly
Right.
in the moment, it was like, he tells those kids to shoot him. Wow.
Wow,
He's really-
getting shot for
What
no
balls?
reason.
Yeah, he's so bold. It puts everything on the line.
Do you guys know who played the gunslinger that he intimidates in the opening poker game? I
He's-
recognize
He's
him.
very familiar to me. I
Yeah.
don't know.
He has those
what
high
from.
Jim
Yeah.
Brewer eyes.
I don't know that
Yeah.
actor, but the reason that he freaks out is because the guy was a well-known, one of the best.
In real, Johnny
like,
Harden.
Harden,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is
He
real,
killed
yeah.
like 40 people in
And
gun
he
duels.
famously got in gunfights at the drop of a hat. Like, he was fucking nuts.
So that's why
That's why they
Maverick
included
drops
him.
it like his hand
Including one of my
starts shaking.
I think one of the most charming Maverick bits. Can't we just play poker? All right, back to poker. We were playing stud, right? I think I prefer draw. Sorry, kid.
I also like him and Annabelle going like, she goes, "Was that fast?" He's like, "Yeah." That's
I love that.
Yeah,
Was
that's
that
my
fast?
favorite
It felt
moment.
Fast to me. Was that fast?
I don't know gunslinging, but it looked fast to
you
me.
know this guy.
yeah, and he's like, "Nah, I've
Yeah.
been shamed multiple times."
Is she?
And I really like the reveal that Maverick later says, like, because he's all appearances and it's a great con man attribute.
Yeah.
I practice drawing my gun until I'm so fast that it's intimidating. I cannot shoot for shit. Like, I can't
But then that
hit
doesn't.
shit.
That
No,
doesn't
then he
become
shoots-
true because he
right.
says I can't shoot, especially if it's people. So I need all the help I can get, and then shoots off like trigger fingers.
Expertly
like
dispatches
perfectly
people's-
takes out 9 people.
shoots guns out of people's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because he's lucky.
'Cause he's
Magic.
Maverick.
Yeah.
But I guess whether they followed through or not, I still like that as a concept. That you'd be a Western con man who realizes the ability to draw your gun quickly is way more important than your ability to actually kill men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true in the real, I assume, because of how few people died in the quote unquote Wild West.
Right.
Everyone knows that, you know.
Well, I also love people in dangerous worlds who embrace cowardice. Abe and I want to do a movie about like a hitman who, you know, in modern day, who's mainly a sniper and is a fucking coward, and like that's his main character
Right.
trait, and that's why he's good at his job. He's lived the longest because he's fucking terrified all the time.
I wanted the thing he said in the poker game to be true when he's like, "No, I'm not going to get in a fight because I might lose, and that seems scary." And like, yes, I am gutless. I'm gutless. I'm spineless, and I run away all the time, and
Yeah.
that's how I'm alive. And
Yeah.
then he gets into big fight and like fights many more people several times throughout the movie. When really I just
He's
wanted him
quite
to just be
brave.
like, no, I the thing I said makes sense. You all heard it. It's logically sound.
Yeah.
You look stupid with how much you want to fight me, Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
And everyone can tell.
And in your combination Civil War jacket plus some Native American tassels, I did not get the Alfred Molina costume at all.
No.
And he wears one set of clothes his entire life.
Yeah.
I
How
took
much
it to
must
be
Alfred
that he's
Molina
a
must think?
hodgepodge of murder, like that. Like he would just, I murdered that person and I like that jacket. I murdered
Like he
that person.
fought
I
with the
like that
Rangers
hat.
and killed natives, and then fought with the natives and killed Rangers.
Sure.
It just likes killing people.
Yeah, he's just a
Takes
murderer.
their shit. Yeah, wears it.
Yeah.
I could buy that. I liked Angel. I always liked Molina.
I love Molina.
Yeah.
I didn't realize because I had never watched the Maverick TV show and I know nothing about it except James Garner. I didn't realize that 8 episodes into the first season, Brett Maverick was joined by his brother Bart Maverick, and for 2.5 seasons, like one of them would just be the lead that week, and then and sometimes they would do
the Maverick brothers.
cons together, but it was a show that like alternated male leads. That's insane to me.
But the movie's true to the show in the sense that it was basically a show about like
Poker players
a
from
charming,
Texas.
no good Nick
Yeah.
who ran cons
Which I
every week.
assume is why they put into, not just as a deflation tactic, why Jodie Foster would always get his name wrong for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brett and Bart.
yeah,
And now Bert.
yeah.
And I read on the trivia page at one point someone mistakenly also calls him Bart, and that's supposed to be an homage to the
Homage,
brother
yeah,
character.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys seen The Homesman?
Is that Tommy Lee Jones?
Tommy Lee Jones and Hilary Swank?
No.
No, I have not. I bet it's great.
It's so fucking great, and it's the opposite of
The
this movie.
Homesman?
The Homesman, yeah.
Like a man whose homes.
No, it was a job that existed.
Talking about house again.
It was a type of job that existed for a brief period, which was the West was so brutal. You know, people would come out, set up a little farm, lose 3 of their kids, and the husband dies, and the mom would be like, fuck this, I want to go back to the East Coast where it's safer with my last remaining kid, and I can't. I don't have like my man or whatever. At the time, that was accurate, problematic as it may be. So there was a job called the Homesman. You take your life savings and give them a percentage, and they would just escort you back to the East
To
Coast
the
and
East
put you
Coast.
somewhere safe.
Ah.
So Tommy Lee Jones is taking 3 mentally ill women whose like minds have broken because the West is so hard to live in a cart to the East Coast, and they're literally like mentally ill in the
Oh, wow.
extreme. And it is the darkest. It's like Unforgiven-y, where you're like, why did anyone live in the West?
Tommy Lee Jones has really settled into his bleak face. From that
Leathery
and like
face.
the Valley of Allah and
That was great.
the
Paul Haggis.
Sunset Junction or something, the TV movie he did on HBO with
Didn't see that.
Samuel L. Jackson. He plays an old man who goes to kill himself by jumping in front of a train. Samuel L. Jackson saves him, brings him to his home, and is like, I'm going to talk to you until you decide you don't want to kill yourself anymore. We're going to have really long, it's Cormac McCarthy, we're going to have really long talks, and this should be a play and not a movie, but we're both in it. And by the end of it, it ends with Samuel L. Jackson like broken and considering suicide. And Tommy Lee Jones just like laughing and walking
I was
away.
right.
Like the devil won. The devil convinced the angel
Jeez.
that you should die. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, The Homesman is the bleakest Western I've ever seen, and there's a lot of bleak Westerns.
Have you seen? It just recently came out, Hostiles,
No.
with
Yeah, I want to.
Rosalind
Mm.
Pike and
Mhm.
Christian
Bale. Yeah.
And it's the same kind of idea as like within the first 10 minutes, just everyone dies and just
Sounds
And it's
great.
just
Real-
it's bad.
yeah, and it's just like I gotta get you to like civilization because everyone's getting murdered at
The
it.
opening shot of The Homesman is a woman on the prairie holding her newborn baby to her bosom, singing a lullaby, walking through the fields. She gets to the outhouse. She drops the baby in the outhouse, like it down the hole. And then it just cuts to someone telling Tommy Lee Jones, my wife's gone crazy. She needs to be returned to the East Coast. It gets bleaker from there.
We're
It's
thinking maybe
crazy.
Vermont or something. Just
Yeah.
like the air is different. So.
Yeah.
It's crazy how, because Westerns are such a well-worn tradition of American cinema and TV.
And a purely
that it
cinematic
created out of the
exercise,
same
yeah.
era. The idea of what we're talking about and making now, like, to me, that's like the Christopher Nolan Western, you know, like the Christopher Nolan Batman, just like the darker, bleaker side of it. Yet it came from the tradition of like bonanza and of
Right,
like a
and
fun
John Wayne
romp.
being like, "I'll save your cows." Bang, bang, bang! The cows are saved.
Yeah.
You really went for it with that impression. That famously impersonated man with a very specific drawl, and you found a new spin on it.
Your cows are safe, pilgrims. Wayne out. Bang, bang, bang. Come back, Wayne. Come back.
Who's that?
Come back, Shane. Another Western reference. Come back, Shane. Come back.
Come back, Wayne. That's a good joke. I was just like,
Yeah, it
in your
wasn't
head,
that
I didn't catch that. So I just thought that you invented a little scenario where there's someone who wants him to come
Right,
back.
I didn't get that joke either, and I just thought, like, there were more bad guys torturing the cows.
Yeah.
They're like, "You've left too soon, John Wayne."
Well, we haven't been talking about Maverick for 8.5 minutes, so we may have reached the end of the episode.
Mel Gibson.
Any final thoughts? Fuck Mel Gibson. Good. Let's bracket it with that.
But William Goldman, thumbs up.
William Goldman.
It's hell being Mel.
Make more movies, William. Your movies are good.
Oh yeah. Is he officially retired? I mean, I don't
know.
Haven't kept up.
I don't
Okay.
know.
His books are great too.
He should keep writing scripts.
Yeah, you
He
should.
writes scripts and he writes books that he just like tells stories about the scripts that he wrote.
Oh really?
And they're really fun. And just him
Yeah.
like here's what happened when I was making Ghosts in the Darkness, and here are all the problems that happened.
I've
and
heard
that's why
there's-
it's bad.
There's a book about the chunk of his life where he was writing Princess Bride, and he
Mm-hmm.
wrote it in the hospital when he was really sick, and it's supposed to be like, yeah, it's a great autobiography in its own right.
Yeah. He's from the Hollywood spirit, the era that I'm obsessed with as a writer, where it just seemed like, yeah, so I went to California and I walked into the studio and they were like, "Guys, we need writers." I was like, "I'll write your movie." And so I started doing some pictures.
Yeah.
It's that like what makes Sammy run
Yeah.
era where
Barton
they were
Fink.
just like, the cameras were just rolling, I guess, and they were like, "We need some pages."
Right. And we're like, we hear
Give me
you
those
got
papes.
we hear you got that word magic, boy. I need 8 pages by 5 o'clock. Yeah.
And then he reads them. This will do.
He also, speaking of a magic person, he wanted a book that his daughters would like, and he was telling them stories at night. And it was like, "What do you want? What kind of story do you want me to tell you tonight? One about a princess. One about a bride. The Princess Bride." Like, it was just all so easy though.
Automatic booger. Electric butt.
You're
Like, these are terrible story ideas.
Actually,
You girls are scuttling my career.
actual alternate names for the Ghost in the Darkness.
It's
Electric
butt.
booger. Electric butt.
Electric boogerloo. We're done. Folks can find you at
Find me at Twitter at DOB_INC. I tweet jokes and whatever is on my mind, and if I'm ever doing anything ever again, I'll tell you guys about it, but mostly
I've
hiding.
seen you an article or two pop up on Bunny Ears.
Oh yeah, I
By
write
you.
for BunnyEars.com occasionally, and Michael does too.
Occasionally, they've been very nice about just saying, whenever you have articles,
Yeah.
send them. Yeah.
They've been really understanding of me like pitching a thing, and they're like, "That sounds crazy, do it." And then I start working on it. I'm like, "I don't think it works." And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, you can self-veto. Abe,
What?
what Macaulay Culkin aligned website do you write for?
Don't have a joke for this.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.